Well, welcome to Hudson Steel Guitars. This video is to show you how to assemble the Hudson 6-string pedal steel guitar. And today we're going to try to assemble one, show you what the parts are, and give you a pretty detailed description of how to assemble this guitar so that you can take the video that you get with the kit and assemble it for yourself. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mount the changer on the guitar. This is the changer mount. This piece right here is the changer mount. Takes two of them. The pieces in between it here, this is the changer fingers, and these changer fingers are what the strings goes through, and that's what bends the strings and makes them change the tone. So we're going to mount it on here today, and I pre-drilled the holes so this won't take quite as long. And I'm going to mount this, and then after I get it mounted, we will move on to the next step. And hopefully it won't take too long to do this. It's not that hard to do, it just takes a little time and patience to do this. This guitar will be set up with 2 floor pedals, 2 knee levers. It'll be tuned to the E9th tuning with the Buddy Emmons style setup on it. And it's the middle 6 strings of a 10-string pedal steel is what it is. I'll go ahead and put the ground wire on it while I got it here. Put a ground wire on one of the bolts here, either one of the 4, for your output jack to ground to, so you ground your bridge and stops the strings from making a noise whenever you're laying your hand on them. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to mount the key head on it. It's this piece right here. I've got a scale length piece right here. It will not come with the kit, but just to show you, that's how I set up the scale length so they're all exactly the same. I've got a template for that, and I drill the holes according to the template so everything comes out exactly the same on these things every time. Takes 4 screws with the washers. Be sure and use the washers on them. That helps with the thing they call cabinet drop. It's not necessarily cabinet drop. It is more or less with giving of the parts that's mounted on it. That's what it is. It's causing it to detune. These tighten with a Phillips screw. They use number 8, 1 1/4 inch. Actually, it's a metal screw. Next, we're going to mount the fretboard. If everything's cut square and mounted square, it lines up like it's supposed to everywhere. And this goes on a different fashion than most people puts things on. Put it on with nails, and there's a reason for that. Makes the guitar have a little bit better sustain. This was a thing I learned from a man who's built many more steel guitars than I ever have and knows more about it than I do. I won't tell who it is because he don't want nobody to know what he's doing, but it don't matter to me what I'm doing. We nail them on there. Try not to miss because you'll make a mess of your fretboard. Trying to get them flush so they don't leave a mark when you put the fretboard on. Now the fretboard, I pre-cut this one so I know it's the right length from the center of your roller nut position up here to the center of your changer. It's 24 inches. Therefore the 12th thread of the fretboard needs to be 12 inches. And I've got this pre-cut so it's 12 inches. You just peel it and stick it on. Sometimes they're aggravating. That's what this one's trying to do, be aggravating this one. Okay. It really wants to be aggravating. There we go. I center it up according to the string line up here at the roller nut. Once you iron it down, it's there to stay. Check it to be sure you got everything right before you move on. It's dead on 12 inches to the 12th thread, so that's what we need. Next thing, this is called a roller nut, and I use string ball ends for rollers, so if you lose them, you can cut the ends off your strings and use the string ball to replace what you lose. Next thing we'll do is we'll set the pickup on in a temporary position. So lay it right here. And then we're going to put the strings on. And first string on it is a 11 gauge string. It's a plain string, no windings on it. Do not cut the length of it any when you put it on. Put the full length of it on. Stick just a little bit of it through the tuning peg, about a 1/4 inch at the most, and wind it on. Let me get it started good. Make sure it's in the center of your changer finger. get it somewhat close to the tune, and move to the next one. Here is my 14. That was 11. 17.
Turn here.
14 doesn't fall down on the floor. Next string, the second string on these is a 14 gauge string. Plain string, no windings on it. I usually hold my hand even with the peg it's going on, go to the other side of my hand and cut it a little long of that to get it where it winds enough of the string on to help it stay in tune. The more string you put on there, on that peg, the easier it is to make it stay in tune. Next is a 17. Third string is a 17 plain, no windings on it. The fourth string on it is a 22, and it is a nickel wound string. I use nickel wound for the tone that it gives. Some people use stainless, but I use the nickel wound. It goes on this peg right here. The fifth string is a 26 nickel wound. And the sixth string is a 30 nickel wound. You can get these strings in bulk from juststrings.com, or you can buy them individually from juststrings.com. The strings are GHS brand strings, and they stay in tune well and work well for me. Next, we're going to put a quick tuning on the top of it. Tune it to 440. Move that out of the way first time, That tunes to an E note. This tunes to F sharp. Next one tunes to G sharp. Third string tunes to a B. And on a B string, you need to kind of slip up on the tuning, because it'll go past in a hurry. See how it went past so quick? Then the next string's an E string. And then G sharp. This one here is the one that will break a lot of times, but try to keep the string off of the little hole in the tuner here when you're finishing up your winding on it. That helps with the breakage, plus leaving the whole entire string on there helps with the breakage problem too. If you cut that string off, it's going to break more than likely. That's just our initial tuning. We'll let those strings sit there and stretch till we get get the rest of the guitar built. And when we get the rest of the guitar built, we will set it up and give it its final tuning and see what it sounds like. Next, we're going to put the pickup on. And let me see here. Drill bit for that. Go get a drill bit, I'll be right back. I'll line up the poles of the pickup straight up underneath each string. We've got them lined up. I'll press down in the center so it stays in place, and drill me a pilot hole for the screws to go in. And it takes little screws so they aggravate and get to in this bag. These are the little plastic washers that goes up under, one under each side of the pickup. It raises it up just a hair to get it to where that it's the right height so it sets up under the strings correct. Get them good and snug. Now we're ready to put the end plates on. So I stand it on its end. I usually put it facing with the changer away from me. And the end plate that goes where the changer at has the hole in it. I've already pre-mounted the output jack. I've already pre-mounted the leg bolts. I pre-drilled the holes for the end plates. And so we'll put them on now. These are the number 8 1 1/4 inch screws, and they're Phillips heads. It takes 6 per end plate. Draw them in right easy. Be sure you got pressure down when you tighten them so you don't wring the heads out on these. They're stainless screws, so the heads are a little soft. you're using a regular Phillips screwdriver by hand, this will take you a while. Flip it over to the other end. Put the other end plate on it. It's the solid end plate. It already has the leg screws in it. Holes are pre-drilled. It's got the end plates on. Okay, next I'm gonna go ahead and put the pinstripes on it and the name tag on it. Okay, gotta keep it from falling. Start at one end. I put the wide stripe right on the body joint and leave the narrow stripe just above it. Hides the body line. Get it straight from one end to the other. Just iron it down. Should be a razor blade here somewhere. There it is. Yep. Take the razor blade and slip it up against that. Tear that loose. Tear that loose. And then it's got a clear coat on top of it. Little plastic. What keeps them lined up right. Just peel that off. This stripes is on it. And now I'll put the name on it. It's just a peel and stick just like the stripes are. I lined the H in the name up with the pickup. It's lined up right, if you put that right there at that pickup, that's where it's lined up with. And I center it up between the stripes and the bottom of the guitar where it's equal. So now we have the names on the guitar and the stripes on the guitar. And it's ready to start putting the undercarriage on it. This is the undercarriage mounts. And take note, one side is lower on the bushings and one side's wider. The low side goes to the bottom and you put it down to the body of the guitar. The low side goes to the body of the guitar. High side's up. Okay, I usually flip this one down and I start by putting the cross shafts. It takes 4 cross shafts. This is the cross shafts. They're smoothed down or turned down from a 3/8 inch aluminum rod. You got one for your first pedal, one for your second pedal, one for your left knee left, and one for your left knee right. And this is a pedal pull assembly. Has the quick connect. I got it already on it. This is your adjusting screw for the pedal pull. This is the screw that tightens it to the cross shaft. Put it on first. Put the one for the second pedal on. Same procedure. These are your knee lever stops. This is your adjustments for the knee lever stops. and this is what tightens it to the shaft. And just put them on next. And then these are bell cranks. These bell cranks, this little hole right here, the little hole in this always goes away from this changer. It goes away from it. It goes toward the key head. If you put them like that, everything will work out right when you get done. Don't make no difference which way they flipped, as long as that little hole's away from the changer. Takes one on the first one for your first pedal, two on the second one, two on the third one, and two on this fourth one. Next, you put the knee levers on. These are the knee levers, okay? This is what's called the knee lever mount, and this is the knee lever. The knee lever mount has your tightening screw in it, and what you do is this is a knee lever and this is a knee lever. The one that is the closest to the changer, you put the screw on it toward the changer with the knee lever coming towards you, and you slide it on. The one that's up here that's away from the changer, you put the screw that's tightening it away from the changer with it pointing towards you. That's the way you put it on. Then this piece here, you line up the shafts into these bushings, and once you get those put in, then you do the part that has to be kind of timed a little bit. You got to flip the carriage down into the body of the guitar. That's the assembly. I always hold it like this as best I can to support everything. Flip it kind of quickly. Slide this knee lever all the way over. This one over most of the way. Okay, and then I slide this back to where this cross shaft is directly above the two screws that's right here, which is holding on the wide end of the key head. Once you get it like that, then I drop these screws in it to fasten it down with. Make sure you use this screw that's in the kit for this, so you don't go all the way through the body of the guitar. These are the correct length for the kit. It takes a Phillips screw to run them in. This is the side that's got your pedals on it, and it goes all the way against the body. The other one will stand off of the body a little bit. And what you want to do is, when you get it fastened on this side, before you fasten this side, you want to check and see if you got a little bit of lost motion in it here and a little bit of lost motion in it there, so that it don't bind. Tighten this screw. Check it, make sure it's still working right. Tighten this screw. Make sure everything's still going to work right. Tighten that one. Next is to line up where your pull rods are going to go for your bell cranks to the changer. Okay. I set the adjustments on these before I line those up. I run this down to where it touches the body of the guitar. When it touches the body of the guitar, and this is setting basically parallel back and forth this way to the body of the guitar, I run this one down to where it touches. This is on your knee lever stops. Same way on this knee lever stop. And then on the pedals stops, make sure that's not hanging up in the way. It's all the way down this way. Run this one down till it touches the body. Same way on this one. We'll come back and set these pre-set adjustments after we get the rods in it and get everything set up right. Okay, so now I'm going to put my rods that goes to my changer in here. Let's see. I like to number these. You can lift it up. You know that's the highest string or the bass string, so that's number 6, 5, 3, 2, 1. That's what strings is on those fingers right there. This is the pull rods for the bell cranks to the changer. It's threaded on one end only, slick on the other end. You have to cut these to install them. I cut them and put them in according to the length that's needed for each change. And to line them up, I start with number 6 right here. And I know that I've got a chart that'll come with the guitar that shows which one goes where for this. But the knee lever, this knee lever that raises your E's, is where the one rod will go. And I tighten the thing on the cross shaft so it's pretty close to straight in line. Maybe just a little bit out of center, but it's pretty close to straight in line. Then I come up here because this has got to miss. You got to have enough clearance for it to miss. And I put this one on here because it's got 2 that goes here. Then I come over to the 2nd string, and the bell cranks need to line up here the same way. Try to get them where they straight up and down the same with each other. You can check that by folding them down so that they both hit at the same time if you need to. This one here, you want it to miss this piece here. Tighten them good. Don't wring them off. Test it and see that it's right. Once you get this done, you can do these 2 or 2 and this one here. This 2nd pedal pulls the 1st string, and so you put it to where it misses this piece right here. The rod will miss it just barely. That gets it as far as you can that way without hitting this as possible, so that it's not so hard to get to this here quick release to put your pull rod on there when you get done building the guitar. This goes on number 4, string 4. Then you got string 3. String 5 does not get a rod. Okay, now I get my knee levers lined up. And have your knee lever coming square with the body, straight up and down, and have the bell crank tilted just slightly, and very slightly, toward the changer. That's where you want it, and you want to tighten this one up. This one goes closer to the bushing, closer to the bushing than this one does. And once you get that where it's straight up and down, like that, you tighten this here, which locks it to the shaft. And that's got that knee lever in place. Then you come over here, use this here end of the bolt here up against that knee lever, same way back here, to get the adjustment where they'll clear one another. Touch it to the cross shaft, and then get it straight up. Get the bell crank slightly tilted toward the changer. And then tighten it up. And hold it straight up and tighten it to the cross shaft. So that's their knee lever setup. Okay. Now we'll put the springs on right here. Take the needle nose and spread it open, stick it through that little hole, squeeze it back together. These are the springs that pulls it up to the note, and then you lower it back from this to changes your tuning. When you're pulling this back, you'll notice that there's two holes that's in here that does not have a bushing in them. Go just past the halfway, going that way to tighten that screw down, and try to have it straight in line as you can with that bell crank. And this one here, same way. That puts your springs on there that pulls it up in tune. Next step is to tighten the two inside locking nuts on the pedal, on the knee levers, because they're where they go, and that's where they'll stay. And just 3/8 inch wrench fits the nuts. Next is to do the initial setup on the gotta tighten down these on these the same way, tilt them just a little bit towards the changer and tighten them down. Then you do the initial setup on the travel, on the knee levers and the pedals. This right here will turn out 2 full rounds. So you got 2 full rounds out. Hold it and lock it down. Check your travel on your knee lever, and that's good. This one over here, the same way, 2 full rounds, and then go an extra 1/4 turn. You can't even go a 1/2 turn extra. It just puts a little bit more travel in it, but it'll work that way too. Make sure you lock it down good. Sometimes you have to use a socket. Now, you check your travel. They both pretty much match up, so that's gonna work. Now the pedals, the initial setup on the pedals, you back this out 3 full rounds, and this one 3 full rounds. So that's 3 full rounds out. And then lock it down. This one the same way. If I can get that in there. Lock it down. Okay, that sets up the initial travel on your pedals and on your knee levers, so that's should have you in the ballpark. If you wind up with not enough of travel to pull it to the note that you need to, you may have to back these off 1/4 of a turn or 1/2 turn or something extra, but the way I set them up, that should work on just about every guitar without having to change anything at all. The next step, we're going to put the pull rods in the guitar that goes to each finger. There's a chart that comes with it that tells which pull rod goes where, and I usually start right here with the second string, and I go to the E lower, which is this one, and the E lower on it, it goes into the fourth hole on the bell crank right here. So I line it up with the fourth hole on the bell crank, and I take electrical pliers and I bend it, and then I take that same pair of electrical pliers, turn the cutter to where it's over here on this side, bump it straight up against that and cut it off. That leaves the hook on there like that. You can pre-bend it a hair more if you need to, and then when you put this in here, you come over to the fourth hole from this west, 1, 2, 3, 4, hook that in it and squeeze it together. You pretty much want this amount of threads right here, just, you know, basically 3/8 of an inch there sticking through. I come over to the sixth one because this is an E lower too, do the same thing on it. It goes in the third hole, so I line it up where it'll be on the third hole in the bell crank, take my electrical pliers and bend it, cut it, line it up into the third hole, 1, 2, 3, hook it into it and squeeze it around. Then you go to the left knee left, which goes into the same 2 strings. This one over here, it goes into the 5th hole. So I line it up on the 5th hole, bend it, cut it, put it in the 5th hole, sixth string goes into the, it's the E raise. It goes into the 4th hole. I line it up on the 4th hole, bend it. This one, always make sure you got it pushed towards the changer when you marking your rod for length. These also, because if they happen to be that way, you'll have your rod too long. And that can happen, because that's happened to me. Put it in the 4th hole. This one here goes to the 1st string, and it goes in the 4th hole. You put it in the 4th hole, bow your rod, and slide it right in it. If your spring happens to be hitting that rod, you can tweak that just a little bit right there to twist that spring away from it so it don't rub it, so it don't make a singing racket when you're playing it. This one goes into the 4th hole, or 4th string, and it goes into the 3rd hole on the bell crank. Goes into the 3rd hole, 4th string. Notice I put these hooks going to where they're away from this side, because you'll be reaching down in here to change these rods out. You don't want that hook there to cut you, so it's away from you, it won't cut you that way. And this one goes to the 3rd string, and it goes in the 3rd hole. Alright, that's got the rods in there. Next we put the tuning nuts on it. In order to get the tuning nuts on it, I usually it takes 7 of these tuning nuts. These are the tuning nuts. It takes 7 of them, because you got 7 rods in here. Okay, so I take 2 of these tuning nuts so that they'll go on the lowers, the E's that lower, which is these 2 strings, the 6 and 2. I take them and I put a mark on them with a permanent marker, any color. I got black here, so that's what I'm going to use. You go green, blue, red, whatever, just anything to change the color of the end of it, so you'll know that's the one that adjusts the lowers. And I run it on to the lower. Run it up to just before it touches. And we'll do the initial setup in a little bit. And then the rest of them gets no markings on them. They just go on to up right before it touches. Then we do the initial setup after we get them on there. Once it touches the finger and wiggles the finger, see how it wiggles that finger just barely. Once it touches it, you turn it on the 2nd string, you turn it 4 complete rounds. Okay. I might have to go a little further than that on this one. I didn't have it quite touching it, I don't believe. Now I got it there. It'll pull it about halfway up of the thickness of the fingers right here. And on this one over here, you'll go 3 full rounds. There, it's touching. And it should be about right there. That's about halfway, and that's about halfway. That's initial setup. They'll have you adjusted some from that. Okay, check your left knee left, and it is moving them, so that one right there should be tightened out about a little bit. It should be about right there. Okay, and your 2nd pedal pulls 1 and 4. You want to pull 1 about the full thickness of the finger, and that should be close. 4, you want to go about half the distance of the thickness of the finger, and that's close. The 1st pedal, which is string 3, you want to pull it just about 3/4 of the thickness of the changer, and that should be about right there. So that's your initial setup. Once we set it up to play it, then we'll do the fine tuning on that. This is what adjusts your pedals. Your regular tuning tunes at the key head. Once this is set up, and now we'll put the output jack, put the wires to the output jack for the pickup. This is your ground wire that grounds the bridge. It's I use the old wire like they did in the 50s, the pullback wire. And your red and whites together, that coil is tied together there. Your green is your ground. I try to intertwine them together a little bit. And make sure and get this twisted together good. Once you get that twisted together good, then you need to tape this up so it don't have any chance of shorting out. I just use regular black electrical tape. Okay. Then we put a little soldering paste on the output jack for the ground, for the hot. Just a touch on the wires, and the way it's wired for the output jack, the lug that is closer to the center is your ground, and the one that's on the outside is your hot. Your ground is this green wire, the black wire here will be your hot wire. I need to get us some firepower going on this here soldering tool so we can solder this. Get a little bit of power going to it. Soldering iron's on. It'll take it but a minute to warm up, and we'll solder that wire on. Soldering iron's usually pretty fast. Okay, let's clean it up. It's going to work. Ground down in it. Try to fix it where they can see it. Put a little bit of solder on the tip of your soldering iron. Add what you need. Let it get good and warm so it bonds good to the output jack. Once it's cooled down, put your hot wire through the hole. A little bit of solder on the tip. And that should do it as it cools down. Yep, that's in there good. Good. I'll be right back. Now put this clamp on this wire just to kind of keep it from floating around everywhere. And it's got a electrical clamp. Just nail it on. Pretty simple. Now we'll put the legs on it. The legs goes up on these here 1/4 studs. They are numbered. See 1, 2, and 3 and 4. The legs are numbered. See the number here. When you put it on, you want to still be able to see the number. If you turn it where you can't see the number, it's not going to fit right. It needs to be where you see the number. It slides right on, and when they're new, they're a little snug. Slide right on there. Nothing. Turn it where you can see the number. Slides up on 2. This one is the third one. You want to be able to see the number. And when you slide it up on there, good and snug. And 4 goes right over here. And then put the nuts on and snug them up good. You don't over tighten the nuts. You can crush the leg in if you do. But you need them good and tight. They don't need to be flopping. And they tighten with a 7/16 wrench. I'm going to spin it around. The pedal pulls are away from me now. The pedal bar goes on up here. I'm going to put the go ahead and put the ends on the legs, the rubber feet on the legs first. They just slide right on there. I pre-drilled the pedal board and put the 1/4-20 screws through it. They have wing nuts on them. Go right here in this hole, and then this hole here. Okay. You'll either have to squeeze together or pull apart to get it to slide right in there. That's part of the tension on the, puts a little pre-tension on the legs. Helps it stand a little more still when you're playing it. And that's one good thing about the Hudson pedal steel with the square legs. There's nothing on the market that stands any more still than it does when you're playing it. Most stable guitar on the market. And the lightest weight too. Next we'll put the pedal assembly on. This is the pedal. That's the quick connect pedal mount. It's got a 1/4-20 bolt in it. You have a 1-inch plastic spacer here, a 1/2-inch plastic spacer here. You got a thin 1/4-inch washer here, and here it's plastic. Then your aluminum mounts, a 1/2-inch spacer here, and that's so after you put it on you can adjust the tension on it to keep the pedals from making any rattling sounds. And the way I put them on here, I measure from the inside edge of the leg over to the center of this here quick connect on the first pedal, and that is 5.5 inches. And I put me a mark at 5.5 inches up here on my pedal bar. I just put a real light mark right on it with a pencil, and once I put that mark there, that's where I line up the center of this. That mark is right here, and the center of this will be lined up with that, and this comes straight down, and that's where I will mount that. Let me get my screw gun and some screws and we'll mount that on there. So I can see my little mark there. I got that lined up on it. Come straight down from it. And put a screw in that. And get it straight up and down here. When you put this one in, you pull on the mount so that it's got a gap in it. Keep the pedals free. Now, the initial adjustment on pedals. tighten these up. Tighten this nut up so it pulls this together. It's tight on the pedals. Hold your pedals up like that, and then loosen this up. You want the pedals to be where they'll freely drop. No tension on them. But they good and snug, they're not going to rattle that way. Once we get this done, this is the part where you're probably going to have a belt sander of your own to do this, unless I make them pre-cut to length. You need 4 1032 nuts and 2 pedal pull rods. Just run this up about 1 inch. Run it down in this quick connector. Run it as far as it'll go. Same way with this one. On the first pedal, you run it down in it as far as it'll go. Okay, now the way we get this rod the right length, I pull this pedal up to where it's square with the pedal board and level with the pedal board right here. It's square and level. And when I do that, I put this rod back here and I put a mark right on the bottom edge of the pedal to the rod. And when I do that, I unhook it. Keep my mark, unhook the second rod because it needs to be the same length. Set them down, get them even with one another. I still got my mark. Take a pair of bolt cutters and cut this rod off. And cut it off right at the mark. Once I cut the rods off, I take them over to the belt sander over here and I sand the ends on a little bit of an angle so that I can get the nuts to run back on there real good. And I'll show you how I do that over here. Put it on an angle, spin it around and around. When the end looks like that, it's about right. Anyway with that. You put the locking nuts on it, just like you did on the other end. And run it up into the quick connector. Run it as far as it'll go. Flip it down on there. That's setting about level. And I'm probably going to run it for a couple of rounds out. Pull it down just a little bit. And you want to adjust the pedals to where they're level. Not necessarily when they start, but when they stop. Those are stopping at level. So that's what you want. Lock your lock nuts down. They're locked down with a 3/8 inch wrench. And you number your pull rods. It will come with the kit will come with some numbers to number it with. This is a tape that tapes around here. I wrap it around several rounds right on top of itself. Put 2 on the second one, 1 on the first one. The guitar's built and ready to set up, tune up, and play. and tune it up and play it. You ready? Might as well turn it on so they can hear what we're doing too. May I adjust the volume on this thing? Might need to turn that down a little bit because we won't go talk over that, I don't think. Okay, you ready? Okay, we're going to do the initial setup on the tuning here. I tune it to 440. So you see our E is a little bit strong. D sharp's a little low, so we adjust the D sharp at the tuning key with our knee lever engaged. And let off to get the E. E's a little sharp, so we'll back off on it to her. Back off on it just a hair more. That's right. Now we'll get the next fifth string's a F sharp. The next one is the fourth string's a G sharp. G sharp pulls to an A with the second pedal. That's right. And the B pulls to a C sharp with the first pedal. And then this E drops to D sharp. And then goes to F. G sharp goes to an A with the second pedal. That A is just a little bit sharp. So she's tuned up and ready to play. And now we'll attempt to make some kind of noise on it. Turn some volume up on it so I can hear it. I'm half deaf. That's with no volume pedal, just straight off the guitar, straight into the amp. It's still ringing. Got good sustain. Sounds like a good guitar. Appreciate you listening to the video, and I hope you enjoy building your guitar. And thank you from Hudson Steel Guitars. If you need to contact me, my number is 704-986-5333.